Another, yeah.
Official, how we talking about this?
No, it's very, it's very hard. It's good.
Full house.
Full house.
That's how you can reach me.
That's how they're home.
Yeah.
So I can remember.
That'll be more of a social thing.
Old school style.
I think everyone's here. We can get started. Are you waiting for anybody else? Everybody online?
Do it a whistle again?
Yeah. You're all set? Okay, so we'll get started. Thanks for everyone for coming. It seems like it's a big group, but sometime in the midsummer, Lacey from UOT reached out to us and said, we want to come for a visit. Madden was planning their quarterly visit. Camp Storage was coming to do the festive tree, and Camp 4, our new branding agency, was coming on a regular basis, and it was all kind of lining up. And we said, why don't we all just get together and talk about what we've been doing and what we're going to do in 2026. So it's an opportunity for our partners to all meet each other. And then tonight we'll have an open house, and we thought we'd open it up to the community. So we'll all be presenting today on what we're working on. And those in the galley are welcome to meet us at Josie Wyatt's at 5 o'clock and seek out any one of these individuals and talk to them about encouraging tourism to Moab, what they're working on.
Just from our previous meeting with Madden, got tied up with questions, so we probably want to hold on to questions that are going to get to their presentations, and maybe we can, because they might be answered later on in the day.
It's a good point. We have 2 hours, but we have a lot to get through. There are agendas around the room. See who's talking. But yeah, the questions will be best answered at Josie Wyatt tonight. So Allie and I will start. And we're just going to tell you a little bit about what we're working on and inheriting.
That's tight.
Ta-da. So we'll just go over the last 12 months. To start, Allie and I are both pretty new. We started just over a year each. So the Moab Office of Tourism has new staff. I started in July and Allie started in October. In the last 12 months, as we shifted paid media agencies, we did an in-house campaign. We retained Madden Media, who's here with us today. For the first time, we have press representation, public relations with Camp Stories, and they joined in May. The office historically has done a lot of global markets through the Utah Office of Tourism, and we've continued to do that FAM tours and trade shows. Our owned media, we launched a new website in 2025. We also produced the guidebooks that are around the table here and are available online. We've been working on shared media through social media. So paid media, like I said, we produced an in-house campaign through April and May, but we put out an RFP for a paid media agency in March of this year. Madden won that bid, and we hit the ground running with a really good team doing lots of good work, putting out ads like the one to the right there. We started just in May, so it seems like we've been working together a lot longer than we have, but it's all pretty new. We also inherited a lot of endemic partnerships in the office. Some of that, which the community might have heard of, is Wander Maps. There was a relationship with Crux Academy, which was a series of educational videos. Some paid media through National Geographic, and Outside Magazine produced an episode of The Road Less Eaten which was something that was already in the works when we started, but we completed in the summer, and is now available online. Ally has really pursued the gravel guide. Gravel biking is taking off. And she pitched that, and it's coming out next fall. And then other paid media stuff that we're working on. We opted into the Utah Office of Tourism's international opt-in programs in a big way. We feel like we're approving 10 ads a day, but it comes out to about 50 campaigns across 8 international markets. So we've really invested in that relationship and are grateful for it. In our owned media, when I started, Simple View was retained to migrate the old website to a new website. So we went from a website that was administered in-house and built in-house to a Simple View platform. And that took about 6 months and launched in June. Other owned media, we distribute the travel guides. We distribute about 300 a week in print form. People come to the website and say they want one mailed to them. And also they can view it digitally right away. And we also started a newsletter. Take it away.
Okay. Earned media, the Moab Office of Tourism has never had a public relations representation before. And so, yeah, it's amazing that we can start this new project. Also, I'm Allie, for anyone who doesn't know me. So we RFP'd in March, and Camp Stories, we met first in July. And so they've already had a lot of placements, which is amazing. And we're working on a couple of activations to promote some winter visitation. Shared media, this is our social media. So right now we're mostly on Facebook and Instagram. We really want to get into like Pinterest and Reddit more. But in 2024, we saw a reach of about 2 million. And in 2025, so far, it's been 13 million, which is awesome. And that's across paid and organic traffic. And then we have a new video project coming up called Who is Moab in winter 2026. It'll be published in like kind of the slower period when people are planning their 2026 trips, and that'll highlight locals and things to do in Moab. And then global markets. This is what we mostly work on with the Utah Office of Tourism. So for FAM trips, that's like familiarization trips that bring in travel professionals. We've hosted 12 trips so far for 63 industry professionals from 12 different countries. We've attended Go West, ITV, FPW, and Brand USA's Travel Week. We've also attended 2 sales missions with the Utah Office of Tourism, and we will host 2 reverse missions. And when we meet with people, we leave them with something. And so we have worked with local artists to give away postcards and stickers and like more meaningful merchandise. Sorry, it takes a second to switch. Come on. There it goes.
There we go. So like I said, we started just over a year ago, and something that I observed was that we were inheriting a lot of things that the office had done and worked with for a long time, like the website, the travel guides, and just our narrative and creative in general. So it was an opportunity to do a little bit of a reset. So we developed an RFP that was issued in the summer. It was very competitive. We had a lot of interest. We had a really good selection committee, which included commissioners and the Utah Office of Tourism. Ben Cook helped us with that. We selected Camp for Tourists, who's here today. So we had our kickoff meeting last month in October, and it's a 3-phase project. Hopefully most people here have heard about this already or seen this, because we've been talking about it at the MTAB board, at commission meetings for quite some time, but it's off and running. So the first phase is discovery, research, and insights phase. We're really asking the question, who is Moab? Why do people want to come here? What do we look like? What do we sound like? And it starts with talking to the community and stakeholders. And so we've had a number of porch light sessions, some individual meetings, opportunities like tonight, at Josie Wyatt's. And we'll do this phase through December. Phase 2 is when we'll start to develop this more. So Camp 4 will present this much more eloquently than I am now, but just so you know that the sense of the scope of the project, we'll start to get into the creative, what we look like, photo shoots, and developing this content. And 3 will be rolling it out. We hope to be completed through August. But another reason that it was great to get everybody together is because all of our agency partners will have a stake in this project. So our paid media is going to be looking at, where are we putting ads? What do they say? Who do we want to come? And they'll be pulled in that aspect. Camp Stories, you're just saying, we had a meeting with Madden earlier. If we invest in a market like Dallas, Texas, and we're taking ads out there, then we should pursue the earned media. We should be talking to journalists and running ads in their local publications, et cetera. So to be coordinated on that front is a major idea of the strategy and branding project. So we had 5 minutes and we went over, so I pass it over, but importantly, we want everybody to come out tonight, Josie White, to talk to us about everything we're working on. Like I said, the state is here, and we're really grateful for that. Another observation I've had since I've joined the office is just how well that office is run. It's structured like a traditional marketing department, and they have so much talent. I just continually feel like we need to be more collaborative with these guys. So Ben Cook is here from the Utah Office of Tourism, and he's going to present a little bit of what the state's working on. One reason I feel so strongly about that is the state puts this huge effort to get people to come to Utah, and why wouldn't we be aware of what they're doing and what they sound like and what they look like, and to get in on close that gap.
Sorry.
That's my cue to shut up.
Just real quick, Nick, I just want to add one
Oh, yeah.
thing. I think that there was a call in the community to redouble up our marketing efforts with the way things were going. I just want to point out that this was a team of 2 right here that has done this. They've done incredible work out here. I mean, I'm very proud of all the work you guys have done. It really has been amazing. I mean, they've gone through every single one of these people's resumes and looked at them. And I mean, this is the team that they chose right here. So, I mean, I'm all glad that you guys are on board. I think it's been great working with you so far, and I'm really excited to see what you guys are going to produce. So thank you too. And it's all.
So we'll turn it over to Ben from the state. And Josh.
Yeah, it's great to be here. We'll introduce everyone to the really quick. So I'm Ben, I'm the Director of Marketing for the Office of Tourism. I'm Josh Blue, the Marketing Director with Ben.
I'm Camille Johnson. I'm the Director of Community and Partner Relations.
And I'm Lacey Chamoy, and I am the Partner Outreach on Community and Partner Relations.
And she lives here.
And I live here.
Camille lives in
Canal.
Canal. And so it's really wonderful working for the state, and we have folks around the state working in community. And I think coming out and visiting is something I'm really passionate about. And we're going to focus this presentation on marketing, but our office really does focus across marketing, development, and stewardship. Those are sort of our 3 pillars, and sort of the lenses that we try to think about things through. So, so there we go. Kind of has a lag. I want to start with, some of you might be familiar with the Golden Circle if you're fans of Simon Sinek at all. If you haven't heard of him, he's got some great books, also great TEDx talk.
Might want to speak up for those people back
Yeah,
there.
sorry. I'll try my best to project. And he talks about this concept of starting with your why. And really, a lot of times we come at things from our what or our how, but really thinking about why we're doing something. And so I'm going to offer you 3 whys around marketing. First, my personal why I'm vested in this work personally. Secondly, perhaps you could say the Office of Tourism's why we market. We get a lot of questions with the number of visitors we have. Why do we need to continue doing marketing? And then the third why would probably be the advertising industry's why. I think all 3 are important whys. So my personal why, these are some old photos of me from 2002. I had barely turned 18 and was old enough to volunteer for the Olympics. So I'm a Utah native. Didn't think I would spend my whole life in Utah, but I have, and I'm really proud of that. And I think about the Olympics, it was this moment when Utah was on the stage and we were welcoming the world. And I was just so proud of this state, and to be a representative of this state and everything that Utah stands for. And so for me, when I think about marketing this state, I think about the opportunity we have to share this beautiful place with the world. And it brings me back to this moment. And then also my next moment is very local to Moab. But this is a picture I took of the first time I was here at Delicate Arch. So it was February of 2003. And me and my brother came down on President's Day weekend, and there was this beautiful snowstorm the night before. And we watched the sunset on Delicate Arch. And I still remember the first time seeing it. And I'd grown up in Utah, I'd seen it on the license plates, but seeing it firsthand was really special. And so again, I think the opportunity I get and we as an office get to share this remarkable place with the world is a gift and a responsibility. So that is my personal why. As I think about our office's why, we welcome people to Utah, and I think we do this because we know that visitors make life better in Utah. And that's a really important and maybe sometimes a little bit ironic, because we think, no, visitors cause a lot of challenges, and they do. But they also make life better, and we can measure that in a number of ways. So as we think about the amount of direct visitor spending, these are 2004 numbers, our most recent. Visitors spend a lot of money here, which brings in a lot of state and local tax revenue, and also supports a lot of jobs that are really critical to our economy. Our office did some analysis and broke this down even more. So some of these things that the tax dollars directly go to. So $500 million to state and local education, funding over 1,000 public educators. And this is all money, this is taking out any Utah spend, these are out of state dollar spends. They provided maintenance of over 1,500 miles of road. So the roads we drive on, and then have contributed 2.5 million to fish and wildlife conservation and 102 outdoor recreation projects in 24 counties. So the why we do this from an economic standpoint is really important and meaningful to our. And then my last why, as we think about from the advertising industry, I chose 3 sort of categories: cars, water, and bags. And these are everyday objects. But with the right storytelling, and the right point of view, you can transform a car into a highly sought after vehicle that someone who identifies as a certain way will want to drive that car, even though it does the same thing that a Subaru might do or a Toyota might do. Water is chemically the same regardless of how it's bottled, but can get someone to pay $15 for that bottle of water versus 99 cents, right? And then bags, even though you just carry stuff, they have and command quite a price. And so that really gets to the power of marketing when done right. So those are kind of my 3 whys. And so now I want to get into the how and the what. And so this is going into some of the nuts and bolts of what we're doing at the Utah Office of Tourism. And I like to start with my favorite definition of marketing. It comes from Seth Godin, and he says, marketing is telling a story people want to hear. And I think that's really important, that emphasis on that people want to hear it, because we live in a distraction economy. And there are so many different channels and so many different places people can go to find things. And so finding something compelling that people want to tune into is really important and first and foremost. As we think about the customer journey, this is a model that I really like. This was developed by McKinsey. It's McKinsey & Company. It's called the Loyalty Loop. And, you start at the phase of awareness and then work your way around consideration, evaluation. But the last part is really, once they've decided to buy and there's this opportunity to bond, it can create a powerful effect where the marketing we have to do becomes much less and people become loyal advocates for what we want to do. And as we think about not just the Office of Tourism, but as an industry, we each play different parts in this customer journey. And so you may not be able to see these circles very well on these screens. This one's a little bit better, that one a little bit harder to see. But, you know, the Office of Tourism, we really play a role in the high level awareness and consideration for the state. As we think about local DMOs, they're much more closer to the actual experience. And so kind of leaning into this evaluation and buy phase. And then this last one, really the front lines here in Moab, you know, attractions, accommodations, restaurants and retail, they're really the ones who create this bonding effect. And who really can transform the visitor experience to then create that bonding and that advocacy that will ultimately drive that loyalty loop. And so as we think of the Office of Tourism, yes, there's a role we do, but we want to think industry-wide, how do we each support each other doing something different so that we're not all trying to do the same thing and sort of compete against each other. And so to me, this thinking about the customer journey is really, really crucial. So today we're going to talk about my portion, the what we do at the Office of Tourism. So our campaigns, even though we all focus on sort of the 30-second commercial spot, that's what everyone focuses on. We really do fully integrated campaigns. So we think about campaigns across the shared. And even though that paid piece is really important and really powerful, if you think about the engagement, as we think about earned shared spaces and particularly home spaces, the engagement is so much higher. And so though we like to spend a lot of time talking about paid stuff, I'm always trying to remind my team that in that earned, shared, and owned space, there's much higher engagement and opportunity to really share the right type of messaging. And then before I get into the nuts and bolts of the plan, I just want to share this quote from Bruce Jensen. He started an ad agency way back in the day in Utah. Some of you may know him, but he was a mentor of mine. And I really love this quote because he was the best at really focusing on that fanatical consistency. It takes a lifetime to build impressions, and that consistency piece is the magic. And so as we look at some of the things we're doing at the Office of Tourism, it's consistent with what we've done in years past, but we really are trying to build out and reinforce that storytelling through the top. So with that, we'll get into our plan, and I'd like to follow sort of a two-step process, and I'll walk you through this very briefly. And just to note, that's the Salt Lake Temple dancing with the Great Salt Lake. It is not. Emil thought it was a moldy cornflake. So I used AI to generate these images, but I like to think about marketing in sort of this two-step approach. Because for those of us who work in marketing, we often have people come to us and they're always like, you need to do this. And it's whatever media they like best. It's a billboard or a radio ad or a TV commercial. And so I always like us to think about first, what are our strategic foundations? And then how do we activate from what we learned from the strategic foundation? And so really going through a situational analysis, what are our goals and objectives? How are we segmenting and targeting? And then how are we positioning our brand? And then we get to the fun stuff of how do we activate and really bring this brand to life. So with that, I will take you through a very fast situational analysis. I decided to do it like a weather forecast because weather forecasters can be wrong 50% of the time and still have a job. And so, and trying to tell the future of travel, you never know what's going to happen as things continue to unfold. So these were some of the key insights we captured, and I'm happy to share a much more robust document if you have interest. I think most people see this and they sort of nod, and this sort of tracks with what we're experiencing. I think the headline is definitely around cost, and cost is a huge piece of the puzzle, but people still really want to travel. And so they're finding ways to continue to travel and do that in a budget way. As we think about the competitors for Utah, so I would say sort of our leading competitors are Colorado and Arizona in terms of offering a little bit more luxury than Utah does. And then our secondary markets of the other Intermountain states, we sort of tend to lead in terms of urban and luxury offerings from them. I really like this next slide though, because These images are really powerful. And none of these are Utah, these are each of our surrounding states. And so as we think about what we're up against, we're offering a product that is still unique to Utah, but our other competitive states are definitely leaning into very similar themes as we are. So it's important as we think about our goals, what are we trying to achieve? And I like to use this visual framework, it's called the GHOST framework. We have your goals, objectives, strategic initiatives, and tactics. We'll get to the tactics in a minute. But our main goal with our marketing is to enhance the economic impact of leisure travel in Utah. And the word enhance was chosen very specifically. Our goal is not just to increase at the end of the day or to grow, but to enhance. And we really look to how does the local community want to lead and how do we support that? Secondary thing we're trying to do is strengthen our travel brand association. So things like the Mighty Five, the greatest snow on earth. Those are powerful differentiators and reasons why people want to come to Utah. And so we do monitor how strongly those brands are being associated with Utah. And as we think about our strategic initiatives that relate to our goals, so we're trying to inspire awareness and interest in Utah travel. We want to increase visitor length of stay and spend. And then we want to encourage visitor planning and preparation. So the way I like to think about these, the goal and objective is like the destination, the strategic initiatives are the main highways we might take to get there. And the tactics are sort of the turn-by-turn directions. And so this is a great framework because you can look at it and see everything in one view. As we think about how we are segmenting and who we're targeting, we have these refresh audiences. So we did some new research studies that included both qualitative and quantitative work and landed on these 4 audiences. So the adventurers, families, and skiers are pretty typical with what we've seen in the past. A newer audience for us that's looking quite promising is one we've called venturistas. And so these are folks who are interested in sort of pairing what I would call outdoor light experiences and really being able to share them in a digital first way. That's a new audience for us and one that we're excited to lean into with some of our new messaging. And then last, we did evolve our brand position this last year just by putting in a few additional things. So I've highlighted in red the words we added. We did add our core differentiators and then this idea of transformation, challenging and defying. So still staying rooted in where we've been, but evolving the brand position for this next year and years ahead. So now we'll cover some of the fun stuff. So activation and tactics. Traditionally, our office has run 3 different campaigns. And an insight that we gained from SMARI, which SMARI is a research company that does qualitative and quantitative research around advertising effectiveness in tourism. But 62% of our ad-aware travelers were seeing multiple ads from our campaign, and yet our campaigns, each one had a different creative. And so while the campaigns will still run the main campaigns, we're still going to have these brands that are well known for Utah, but we're bringing them together in our united campaign concept. And so it'll be a statewide approach. So regardless of which campaign you'll see, the overarching creative will be similar. And the reason that we took this approach, a couple strategic insights as we built out this next campaign that we're calling Utah Person. A lot in travel, folks are really interested in authentic local experiences and finding places that they feel like are a core part of their identity. And so for those, who we're seeing this as a trend in tourism, and we were thinking, how can we really get at this with the campaign that we're trying to do? And so that's why we created the concept of you might be a Utah person. And like I said, it will cross sort of our core offerings of our great parks and beyond outdoor experiences, our skiing, and then our wonderful and up and coming urban experiences. And so I have, will these play okay? The Zoom, do you think? So unfortunately, we don't have the parks ones, because we're gonna get those the end of this week, so I was really hoping they'd be done, because I would love to, for you guys to see that. But we've got the ski ones, and so the outdoor ones will be very similar to the ski one, but we'll give this a try. I don't.
I was about to say, I think that's audio come from here.
Know how to win a fight.
Okay,
So avoid.
there we go.
We all know that family. Matching ski gear. Snow lovers. Know how to win a fight. So, if you pizza and french fry before lunch, believe in snow angels and winter wonderlands, have family photos full of goggles, we know why. You might be a Utah person.
That was done by Love Communications. Yeah. Yeah. And then the next one, so we create different spots for those different audiences. That one is definitely geared towards the family one. That's one of my favorites. I'll play for you one. This is really directed at that skier audience and really features our greatest snow on earth messaging.
If you measure life in vertical feet, the weather app is your social media. You wait all year for the greatest snow on earth. We get it. You might be a Utah person.
I can't wait to go skiing.
I know, right?
Almost there.
And then we have one more, and this is the one that's sort of geared at that more adventurist audience. And we have a couple more. I just picked a few. If you want to see all of them, come get me and I'm happy to share all of them with you. But this one is another great one as well, focused on that adventurist audience.
There are those friends who love the romance of winter. Hot toddies served on snow. And deep relationships. So, if your best photos are whiteouts, your favorite memories are frosty, and your aesthetic is snow globe, we understand. You might be a Utah person.
I'm really excited to see the parks focused ones. We did some filming actually here in Moab. What was that, a month ago? September, 2 months ago. Captured some really incredible assets, and so once we get those, we'll definitely share those so you can all see those. But it's gonna be stunning. We're really excited about it. We got some reporting back just last week in terms of the launch of this campaign, and typically you see decreased performance the first year of a campaign just because it's new. But it's doing very well. So strong early performance. We're already ahead of where we were next year, and we're really excited to see how the ski campaign nets out. We'll be starting, we're doing the winter advertising right now for the Mighty Five, but we'll start with the new advertising in February.
And you're hoping the cloud seeding to make this happen, right?
Yes. This is one of the scripts for the Parks and Beyond, which is where you guys would be featured in. I won't read it to you. But it will, again, will be that same narrator, similar style as the previous one. And here's just a few of the assets, still photos that we captured on the shoot that we just did. And then some of the urban and outdoors with imagery, just so you can get a sense of the visual style for those. So as I said, here's our 3 core campaigns that we run. It'll be United Creative. And here is the timing of how those campaigns net out. So we start the ski in winter just a month ago, the beginning of October. Parks and Beyond Winter has been running. And then we will do a holiday blitz. So that's around Christmas to just after New Year's. We found that a lot of people are at home with their families, and so they start talking about where they want to go on vacation. And so it's a very good time to sort of heavy up and get them thinking about Utah. And then we will launch the rest of the campaign in February. So the quick glance, you can kind of see where we're headed. Earned media wise, I won't spend a ton of time here, but Anna, who's not with us, her team really focuses on the domestic PR space, so pitching really targeted publications. And focusing on statewide storylines. So we develop an annual pitch calendar and we really try to lean into different parts of the state and partner with different states or different counties, PR partners. And so we're always willing and happy to work on united efforts in that area. As we think about our shared media with social, we do a lot on Meta platforms plus Pinterest, and we're doing more with YouTube this year as well as Reddit. We still have an X account, but X is kind of a messy place, and so we don't really spend a lot of time on there. But our really core space is Instagram and Facebook. We have a strong local following on Instagram, and so we're able to always work and create shared content to share up both our channels. I think we did a great activation with GoPro that you guys helped us with. and
Yes,
That
yeah.
content performed really well on our channel.
Then, I remember that picture.
Yeah, right. And then last but not least, our owned media. So as we think about our website, visitutah.com is our hub. We get about 500,000 views per month or 500,000 visits per month. We also have an email newsletter with over 120,000 subscribers now. And we love opportunities to partner on local content and creating content on our website. And really focus, here's where we really focused on planning and preparedness. So we want to make sure that visitors who come are really prepared. And you might recall that we launched Utah Forever at the tourism conference. So this is our new stewardship campaign. And I say new, I kind of hesitate because it's really an evolution of Forever Mighty. So some of you might remember Forever Mighty was launched in 2019. And it was sort of playing on the Mighty Five. And as we dug into looking at that campaign, we realized that a lot of people assumed it was part of the Mighty Five, and there was some confusion about it really applying to the whole state. And so Becky from our office and Natalie really led a effort across state agencies to build a new stewardship framework. We're calling Utah Forever. And it's really designed to be more messaging focused as opposed to building a unique brand. And so we will, with EDA funding, we are going to do a one-time in-state campaign around this initiative. And so the dates are still to be determined. We're looking at probably the May timeframe. And that will be a one-off campaign just to really kick it off and get people excited. If any of you saw the work Fire Sense, it was a campaign that the governor's office led off on, kind of a similar model where we're creating a campaign, but it's really meant to be used by other agencies and partners. And whether they have their own stewardship brand, like Visit Park City has Mountain Kind, it can be used within their existing campaign, or if they're a smaller county DMO who does not have a stewardship campaign, they could use it as is. So it's really designed to be flexible across that. So really quick recap and I'll be done. Here's the one slide, if you needed one slide to see the whole campaign of our goals, objectives, initiatives, and tactics. Here it is, and how we're measuring that success. And then here's just a quick summary showing our budgets as they compare against last year's. And then the flight dates as well. So with that, any questions or feedback, or happy to answer anything?
I'm curious just about, you have a heavy play in paid social and social in general. Where does TikTok fit into that? Where it does it, you still, how do you guys feel about utilizing TikTok, especially knowing that Venturista audience, I feel like would be really relevant on that platform.
Yes, so we're not allowed to be on TikTok.
Okay, a
because,
lot of, yeah.
The governor signed an executive order saying no state agencies could be on TikTok. It is a loss for us.
Yeah, we love to be on it.
There's so much travel inspiration happening there, and we're just missing that conversation. So we have an account, and we were in the process of ramping that up. When that executive order was signed, we deactivated it. We still have it. We're just waiting for something to change.
Does that include Lemonade, the other platform of TikTok?
Yeah, anything that's TikTok related we can't be on. So
Do you suspect that will change as soon as ownership shifts?
I think so.
Okay,
I thought it was gonna be a lot sooner than this.
same.
So it's tough because we're definitely missing.
Yeah, all your
a
other
lot of-
competitive
A
states
lot of
are on it.
conversation,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yes.
Great, and we can have more conversations after the meeting. But thank you, Ben. Thank you to the state for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben. We'll turn it over to Madden, who's gonna talk to us about paid media. Leslie here.
And we're lucky enough to actually have the CEO of Madden with us today too, and just, you know, as you've said before, you guys have a lot of DMOs, and for you to show up, you know, to this small little meeting, we really appreciate that.
Thank you for your effort, being. Thank you.
Sorry, fighting with that. You're good.
Oh,
It's just.
It has like a
It's
few
gonna see a
seconds
little
lag.
flash there, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get there.
There you go.
Perfect. Madden Media, gonna go ahead and introduce myself and then I will, have the team pick it up from there. So, I'm Leslie Robal, I'm the Senior Destination Strategy Director, so I have the privilege of working with Ally and Nick day in and day out on reviewing a lot of things. And I've worked collaboratively with them in our first 6 months to really, as Mick said, hit the ground running when it comes to, media and, placement, but.
Hello, I'm Caitlin Green, Media Director at Madden Media.
Hi, my name is Kristen Brockle. I'm the creative director of Team Goat, which is the account services team for Moab. So yeah, as Leslie said, I've had a great time getting to know Mick and Allie over the last few months and looking forward to how we can all work together in the future.
I'm still there.
Yeah.
And I'm Heather Molina. I head up our performance insights and data group. So being able to measure everything that we do.
So we wanted to start with a quick 6-month rewind. I had to count the months twice because it feels like there's just been so much happening in a short amount of time. So we started working with the Discover Moab team in May and came out here the end of May. And so during that time, we met with members of the board, met with the Moab team, and really just did a lot of active listening of understanding where they've been, what works, what hasn't worked, and just really understanding the community and the fun quirkiness and everything that comes along with the things that are Moab. So from there, we determine and create what we call key business objectives. And so those are really our marching orders as far as what we want to accomplish. But with that, a lot of times it's not just marketing, right? Like we need to understand where Moab wants to go from a destination, where you want to go from an operation standpoint. So after that, we did, after those were kind of set and we worked collaboratively on that, as well as determining the audiences. That's really when we got to determining, okay, we know we're kind of in this in-between stage where this brand RFP is coming, but we want to look a little bit differently at how we tackle creative. We wanted to make sure that we were coming with a welcoming message, making sure that we were inviting people back to, or continuing to bring people into Moab. And so within this time, we have spent, and I'll get kind of to some of the high level metrics, but have executed our media with about $1 million with where we've been so far, with just a variety of tactics that really hit very similarly to what the state was talking about along that funnel. So again, with a newer campaign, right, we have been pushing a lot of that awareness, but also want to balance that out with what we're showing for people who are booking. How are we making sure that we're showing the return on that ad spend and the return on the investment? So we've generated, over 62 million impressions in the, really 3 to 4 months that we have been pushing the campaign. So this morning we went into more detail about those metrics, and those are real fun charts to see, right? Or here's where we were, here's where we're going. So we're excited to see where also that shows from an economic impact. So just a quick kind of rewind to where we've been, what we've been doing. From those key business objectives, where we've landed is to make sure that we're successfully evolving the brand with where we are right now. We shifted a little bit from a messaging and creative standpoint from where the previous agency was, and then of course the Moab team was doing some kind of in between before we came on board. Another thing that we're really focused on is that visitor length of stay. So making sure that if we're bringing in visitors course, that we're bringing in the right visitors, but also trying to bring in those visitors that are gonna stay a little longer, spend more money, making sure our targeting is really aligned with spending that matches what we want to invest. We also want to make sure that we're positioning Moab as a year-round destination, right? So we've been pushing as far as what that looks like for off-season as well as, shoulder season within there. And again, just making sure that we're really hitting those different areas of the funnel and meeting people where they are. We spend so much time pushing, making sure we're driving them to this new website, but we also want to make sure we're not just pushing them to the website, we're also meeting them where they are with our content, with our messaging. So Kristen will talk a little bit about where that creative campaign landed.
Yeah, and so, as the new agency has come on and are doing discovery for the brand, we had to do a really quick, turn and discovery workshop with Mick and Allie as we, did our onboarding to make sure that we were running our media as quickly as we could and didn't go dark for too long. So we did a discovery session. We had a lot of good conversations, and one thing that Madden anchors around when it comes to creative storytelling is the emotion to evoke. And so that's what we landed on. So we landed around this concept of the shift, which is kind of talking about transformation and kind of the experience that you take home with you after you leave. And so we developed two pitch territories, and we landed on this one. So I'm going to read this one slide for you. Every traveler has an edge. In Moab, you find yours. This is a place of thresholds where landscapes shifts, limits are tested, and transformation begins, where the familiar drops away. Moab invites travelers to seek out the edge, not to escape, but to evolve. You get curious, you get quiet, you get real. Moab calls to those drawn to raw beauty, to challenge, to connection. Visitors who come with intention and leave changed. People looking for their edge. The edge isn't the end of the road. In Moab, it's where the real journey starts. This is the shift, and it starts when you step to the edge. So all of the ad units that we've been running for the last 6 months are all really centralized around this theme. And so we're really hopeful that as we kind of get into the meat of the brand update, that we can work together and figure out how to take this further. So what we have on the following slides are just a few of ads, individual ad tactics that we've been running in ad units. And so as Leslie had said, we have 3 main core audiences that we are addressing where we have been addressing the last 6 months. So we develop creative for each of those audiences and per channels and all the things that all of you guys already know. And so on the next slide too, we have a few more, but we've really been trying to balance digital media, paid, advertorial, and all of those things. So yeah, these are just a few of those examples here, but it's been a crazy few 6 months.
And this is just a little bit of a snapshot review of the information we talked about earlier. So what has that investment looked like? Total impressions, clicks to the website, the 22 media channels. So I think as we've come into this year, really, and Caitlin will talk more about that, really just having a more varied media plan. And then what does that traffic look like? And then within that, we've had some of the buy that of course focuses a little bit down in the funnel. So making sure that we can actually attribute room nights to what we're doing. We're also seeing some really great metrics as far as what the time on site that people are spending, especially like we talked so much at the beginning. This is a newer campaign. This is about driving more awareness. And so seeing some pretty great metrics for trying to integrate with some newer audiences. And then again, just a lot of ad creative, right? So wanted to be able to spotlight some of that work, and then a lot of the back and forth we joke about with Mick and Allie. We want to make sure we get that messaging right, and sometimes there's different nuances based on what the buy is. So a lot of great moving pieces.
Here is our current media flow chart. So we started in June, and we have most of our things going ongoing, keeping the lights on. Some very strategic buys that we have that are not always on, but continuing to build on that media plan.
And there's more.
And there's more. And then with media buying, we're really intentional with what we buy. And so we really like to balance these campaigns between discovery, trust, and convert. So in the discovery area, that we are here to inspire the awe and curiosity at scale. And then we move into trust, really deepening those credibilities and building that emotional story. So having that collaboration with partners and really being strategic with our influencers. And then our last one is visit/convert, which we know OTAs and really staying strong to retargeting and keeping our messaging key on those platforms.
Yeah, so right now we have presented kind of an overview of what we plan to do with the media plan, and then we're working with the team here to get approval and dive further down into what those tactics are. And we're not quite there yet, but we have a lot of good pieces of that, so we'll be able to share more once we get that finalized. Other pieces that we talked about that's important for this group, right? We talk so much about driving clicks to the website, right? We want to make sure we're spending more of an effort of saying, okay, we've got the clicks here. Now, what do we want them to do? What do we need them to do? At the same time, it's also, we're targeting this audience. We're making sure this messaging matches that audience. What does that user experience need to be once they get to the website? So with the new website having launched in June, we want to make sure that we're spending more time creating content about what we want and what we need that user experience to be. So that's something we're talking more about as we get into this next year, as well as having more of an emphasis on SEO, GEO, and content creation. And so we'll be working with the team to start creating additional content that perhaps meets gaps that we're seeing within the SEO space, but also more so than that, making sure that we're able to break through within that AI space and have our content, start showing up in AI overviews and those different pieces. So this year was a lot of building the foundation. So next year is very much like, okay, now how can we shift with the way technology has shifted, with the way the user experience has shifted? And so we're excited to be able to do some of that, especially in collaboration, knowing that the Camp 4 Tourist team is going to be updating content on the site as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of really great collaboration there, especially out of our audit, whatever, the things you guys are doing for your process to be able to share data and bring in our fellow data nerds to help define next steps. So that is one piece of kind of some of the difference of this coming year looks like, as well as email. And so some of the things that we have done this last year is really trying to get more first party data. And so we do have the guides here. We've had different things that we've been pushing, but we want to make sure if we're striving to get people to raise their hand to learn more, that we are providing with them with some unique information and unique experience. So we're excited to start doing some onboarding campaigns through email, as well as some monthly execution. So we'll be working to continually build out those lists with the right people based on the marketing, but we'll also be working on making sure we're nurturing those as they come in based on the information that they're providing. So that's a little bit of taste of what 2026 looks like. But yeah, we're really excited to keep moving and work with all of you.
Great. That was the handoff.
Yeah.
We'll move to camp stories. Campbell and Courtney, the smallest group, but still mighty.
That's right.
We'll be,
The mighty two.
we'll move quickly.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
No, we have time.
Oh, we're good.
We've been in a lot of transition.
And by the way, Camp Stories is our public relations agency.
Yes, so we earn coverage. I think that's a good place to, we don't have a slide on it, but we don't buy ads. We tell stories and pitch into trends, and so we'll talk a little bit about how we do that.
Yeah, so I loved that we already have some overlap, right? Because you're talking about trust, and that's really where everything that we do is rooted. And that's establishing authenticity and making sure that we are earning the trust with readers and connecting with writers and outlets who really understand what we're trying to do and being truth tellers of the place and really channeling the best stories coming out of Moab. So let's see if I can keep cruising here. Okay, so starting with just grounding as the North Star, again, everything being rooted really in the authentic place that Moab is, and really positioning Moab as, we like to say, the soul of the American Southwest, right? There's so much beauty, there's so much awe and splendor here. But Moab is not just a stop along the way. It is a destination where these concentric layers of adventure and culture and art and makers and community really exist. And so how do we, and again, there was a great overlap, I think, with you all talking about stopping a while, right? Spending multiple days, multiple nights, and having multiple adventures while you're here because there are so many reasons to stay. So from an objective standpoint, this is a little bit of reiterating what we're setting out to do, but I think you're going to see a lot of overlap in what all of these agency partners are doing, increasing awareness and share a voice in those trusted spaces. Shifting perception, and we want to talk a little bit about that and the seasons, right? The shoulder seasons, the high seasons, the off seasons, and how are we getting people to look at that seasonality a little bit differently and maybe consider Moab when they otherwise may not have done so previously. And then driving economic impact, of course, and promoting responsible tourism, right? Getting the right visitors to come here and spend money in the right ways. So this is just a high level look at some of the strategic messaging pillars that we look at. We're going to do a double click into this, just give you a quick snapshot of some of those story angles that we're looking at. But in general, we want to tap into adventure, culture, makers, and art. The food and beverage scene, there are amazing things happening from, you know, coffee to ethnic cuisine to you name it, amazing food scene here. Community centric and how the community is holding each other up. I mean, we just learned at 98 Center about the pond hockey that takes place here. Amazing. So we're going to dive deeper into that. So the Southwest spirit, indigenous stories, accessibility, heritage, and history. There are just so many stories, including film and literary tourism, to unlock. And you're going to see that be channeled through some of these thematic arcs that we put together. We're not going to spend too much time here, but this is just a really nice snapshot of how we're starting to tell those stories and thread through some of the narratives and how we can connect with writers on, hey, what are you already writing about? And here's how Moab fits seamlessly into those stories that are already top of mind.
Yeah, so these are sort of long-term thematics that we look at. We're not looking at these so sort of over the short term. We're looking at them in 3 to 5 year arcs typically. They're in editorial tone, so not necessarily toward marketing language, but more towards how we're talking to journalists. They're looking at story leads directly as opposed to this is what we're trying to do strategically. Courtney mentioned this earlier, but all roads lead to Moab, not beyond it. This is this idea. Obviously, Utah as a state wants people to move around the state, see a lot of different places. We want people to settle here, stay here longer. Part of the way that we do that is deep itinerary stories. And so if every story we have through Moab is I spent a day in Moab, then people think it's a place where I can spend a day, I can see it all. If we have itinerary stories that go into 3, 4, 5 days, it makes people say there's so much in this place. We need to spend more time in this place. We're not gonna be able to see it all if we don't have a lot of days here. And so this is how we speak to that audience and start to sort of shift that perception as Courtney was mentioning a little bit earlier. The second is adventure here, this ultimate natural playground for creativity. We all know that the maker scene is really incredible here. This is this place that it may be seemingly in the middle of nowhere, but it has done this thing with incubation where all these people have come up. Rebecca McAllister is somebody who we talk about a lot and who we talk to a lot, she's writing like 200 checks a month, which is pretty incredible to makers.
Yeah, all those individual makers.
Yeah, but also positioning Moab is why is this happening? This is your muse. This is a place where people come to get really inspired. They come away from this place and they're like, this is amazing. We also tell really deep personal people stories as well. It's not just about the place. I have to go this place. A lot of people talk about bucket lists. We go beyond bucket lists by getting people emotionally attached to the people in a place. They only exist here. And so how do we tell those stories? And people go, oh, I'm going to Moab because I learned about this incredible person that lives there, not because I want to check off things on my bucket list. And so the place is a muse overall. And then Moab is more grand or more impossibly grand than surroundings. It's about art, history, art, and culture. You guys talked about this, I think, really well. It's about more, a lot of people we talk to are like, Moab, I'm not sure it's for me. I'm not into hardcore adventure. And some of the perceptions, stories that we've started to tell, which we'll talk about in a little bit, they go way beyond, swinging off cliffs. They go into, there's this incredible restaurant scene. There's this incredible coffee scene. There's art, there's history and culture. There's indigenous stories to tell it. So like layers of an onion, we tell one and then we move on to the next and it's just endless. So we don't usually go this deep into it, but we had a lot of questions about some of the specific angles that we're pitching toward awareness. And so I won't go over all of these, but accessible adventure is one that we're really focused on. This idea that you can show up in flip-flops or you can show up in hiking boots, and we have something for you here. Again, increasing visitation during lower seasons. It's funny, you talk to some people in Denver and some of these areas, and you tell them that you're coming to Moab in July and August, and they're like, that's crazy. We actually like that perception. It's good that it exists because we can turn it on its head. Economic impact as well. Film and literary tourism. We all know when we look at backdrops in film tourism, we're like, that's Moab. But we feel like there's a lot of brand equity to be grabbed there, where somebody sees a film and they say, I want to go to Moab. That's the place. They don't just say that's in the Southwest. We need to own that. There's so many things that have happened here. And so let's grab that brand equity and make it ours. Community as well. I went into this a little bit, but Moab's locals have done it all. They've done incredible things in this outpost. And so let's tell those stories as well. Astrotourism and noctourism, we really dived into this pretty deep already. That's an area where we talk about geo, we talk about SEO. We believe that's a thing where, like, if we tell enough stories through Earned and you're searching through AI, we're going to start to pop up that list as well. Culinary, of course, we'll talk about a big culinary opportunity that we have coming up. Road trips, again, the idea of getting people to settle here, making this sort of your road trip origin as well. Moab's legacy and timelessness. This is something that comes up a lot as we talk to locals and people that come. There's this thread that, you know, Moab, like, I haven't been there in a while, or I'm back here and it's changed so much. But this idea of timelessness as well, like when you go rock climbing and you reach for that hold, and the hold is exactly the same. The physical place has not changed here. So the legacy and timelessness of this place are sort of the same. Art and makers as well. Nature, environmental. The soil, the crust, like the interesting things that only happen here that people are studying as well, like Smithsonian stories, and then weddings, elopements, and honeymoons. This is an area where we sort of want to get out there and start telling stories of adventure a little bit there. And then markets and audiences, leaning on Madden.
Have you seen these before?
Yeah, this is your guys' slide. Leaning on some of these established audiences as well and making sure that we're aligning.
Yeah, and just making sure that we're tapping into all those travelers that you all have identified so that we're finding the right overlays.
And then media coverage strategy. This is sort of where we're going. Everything is laddering up to national here. I won't go too deep into this.
Yeah, essentially it's a large swath that we're doing national pitching all the time. And then we kind of double click into really key focus markets. And that happens on a daily basis from a pitching standpoint, but it also happens in terms of the SMT with the activation. We're going to be doing a satellite media tour coming up, and we can touch on that shortly, but just making sure that we're thinking about the drive markets, the local markets, and then on a national level, some of the coastal markets to spark some of that interest and really socialize the word Moab. What does it mean? What does it look like? That's really a place, and to drive that desire to come and visit.
Yeah, and Mick mentioned earlier, something that we do in Earned as well is if some of the ad agencies, the creative agencies are looking at, we want to go into this market, we can go in for free for Earned, essentially test those markets and then go in with ad dollars later if it makes sense.
This is just a quick snapshot of some of our target lists that we're going through and kind of checking off as we go. And just, we wanted to touch really quickly on one of our core foundations, which is the people. I mean, we touched a little bit on this, but what we really like to do is go super deep on the great characters that make Moab the amazing place that it is. And so what we like to do is, you know, interview the inspiring characters and then talk to those people, the locals here, and just get more word of mouth, or who's the best, most intriguing person to talk to next, so that we're consistently building this source book of character stories, so that we're never running out of stories, and that we have a deep, in-depth analysis of what's going on, and we can profile the most intriguing and interesting people that make this a place, so that we have that all cataloged and ready to go at a moment's notice. So yeah, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, we also find this way, it allows us to go deeper than what we find on Google, which is somebody typically
Yes.
would be like, I'm searching on, you know, I want to see what doesn't exist online. This is a way for us to go really deeper, find those stories that don't exist anywhere else, and then tell those stories. Those become big feature stories.
And there's a lot of word of mouth to that too, right? Oh, but did you talk to this person? Because that's interesting. And then it draws you into the next story and the next story. And so we're starting to make our way through some of these interviews, and we're cataloging as we go. So here's just a quick list of some of the people that we've talked to, some of what's upcoming, and we're continuing to add. So that's been a really rewarding part. I think we can skip this. And
The updated press materials, just ensuring one of the questions we get all the time from media is how do I get there? And so making sure that people know that we have that question answered before they ask it.
Access being important.
Some people that we've recently hosted, Tim Wanger from Metador, Winston Ross, Maya Silver was just here from Outside Magazine. We have a couple people coming up, Emily Pennington. She's writing a story for Wall Street Journal, another story, which is great in partnership with the UOT and Anna's team. And then just some recent results. I know some people saw this as well. This is a perfect example of the perception bending story that we want to tell. Yes, it's hot in Arches National Park right now. Here's why you should go. This came out in August. It's literally exactly when we want to drive people to this place. It also shows an example of sort of a creative way that we pitch. We actually sent Desert Solitaire to a bunch of different media. It costs almost nothing to send books. And so pretty incredible. A lot of them tagged it and were like, I read this, or I read it in high school, or I've never read it before. And so leaning into that, it's the 50th anniversary of the Monkey Wrench Gang this year. It's I'm a huge Abbey fan, obviously. He was not a huge fan of tourism, but I'd like to think that he would be surprised that you can still find solitude in the places where he found solitude. And so there are upsides to that, obviously.
And the book starts, this is the most beautiful place in the world, which is a great marketing.
Yes.
Yes. Come nightfall, Moab's greatest attraction reveals itself, again, speaking to some of this astrotourism stories that we want to tell. Some results as well. We just had the Sierra piece come out in praise of Dark Skies, Matador, which highlighted the hoodoo here, Fall Travel. This was a broadcast segment as well. Condé Nast Traveler, Denver Post, which was nice talking. It was interesting. We were talking with the person who wrote this story, and this story made Colorado fund their parks after. He said that they called after and they were like, this is crazy. Like, he's like, I'd like to think my story like made this happen. And so that was great. And then some upcoming stories we have. This Outside Magazine story should come out any day now. It's about extreme, disabled and adaptive adventure. She came and she interviewed 4 different tour operators who are catering to people who are taking individuals with spinal cord injuries out, leading the blind, leading the deaf on extreme adventure. So this is highlighting, this is tandem base jumping, really cool, like very moving story. We have a National Geographic traveler story coming out also on Dark Skies. Another Wall Street Journal story coming with Sorrel River Ranch, and she's pitching another story right now on her trip that's coming out. Overland Journal, New York Post, food and wine story we're working on with Reagan Stevens. They've been very surprised by the culinary scene here, which has been a fun story to tell as well.
Okay, and then looking ahead into 2026. So really for us, it's about continuing to tell all of those character stories, unlock and unveil just new layers continuously to the Moab story and the thematics pulling through. So really broadening that story and continuing to move beyond the expected, right? And the expected adventure, yes, absolutely, and highlighting that, but in unique and different and interesting ways. And then spotlighting culture makers, the dynamic businesses and partners in the area, continuing to evolve our just media strategy in terms of continuing to check our list on the outlets that we're going after, and possibly supplementing or going into certain markets where we say, hey, you know, it's really important for us to test some of these markets with earn if you guys plan to go in with paid after that. And then just continuing to target that shifting audience, tapping into Gen Z, and continuing to unveil new opportunities to inspire those authentic connection points with our audiences. Do we have a few more moments to talk about the tree? We'd love to talk about this. So we like to say that this year we are doing holiday.
I would say started one was an activation.
Oh,
Never had a public relations agency. Typical activities to do kind of special event or something that gets media attention. And Camp Stories came to us with this idea. I've been watching activations around the state recently. Zion did one in New York City. They've recreated things in Zion and invited journalists. Visit Salt Lake recently did one as well. And this is our take on it.
yeah. You know, really it's about how do we capture and captivate the media and thereby the general public in interesting, engaging, buzzy ways. How do we get people to look at things a little bit differently? And so, for us, we were thinking about the seasonality piece and what's happening in Moab in December, and typically December really is a quieter time. And so why don't we think about what is happening in Moab in December, right? The winter solstice is coming, and how do we think about that period of time? And what makes it uniquely Moab, right? So we're calling this holiday the Moab way. And so I think you all have seen the widespread coverage of the Rockefeller Christmas tree being, moved from Vermont. I think it's Vermont.
That was upstate New York.
Oh, sorry, upstate New York. Sorry.
It's different national forest every year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Moved across the country, decorated. I saw just this morning on the Today Show, they now have all of the scaffolding layers up so everyone can access each level of this tree to decorate it. And in Moab, we're doing it differently, right? We don't have the Rockefeller tree because here we're offering something quieter, wilder, and we like to think much more meaningful, right? Because here, the red rock is dusted with snow, and we have these incredible landscapes that are just age old, and these incredible juniper trees that are over 1,000 years old, centuries old in many cases. And how do we think about this in a unique and different way? And so here's a quote. Do you want to mention our Ed Abbey friend here?
Yeah, junipers are representative of a bunch of different things in its books, but my favorite juniper stands before me, glittering, shaggy in the sunrise, ragged roots clutching into the rock on which it feeds, rock bows bedecked with a rash and the shower of turquoise colored berries. And then at the end of the book, he also highlighted actually going out and decorating a tree, which is pretty interesting in desert solitaire. And so this was a way to kind of turn something that people know on its head from a perception standpoint. We're going to go out, we decorated the tree. I think you have a picture of that.
We decorated the tree. She has been lit. Here is our picture. And it really is a nod to Edward Abbey's passage about how he wanted to go out and decorate one of these trees in the wild and add peppermint canes and beautiful lights and silver tinsel. And leave it there. We won't do that until the birds strip it bare, right? And it really is this kind of symbolic, amazing way to talk about just the history of the place. And these junipers have stood for hundreds of years, and they are symbolic of just this long-standing, beautiful landscape and land and timelessness. And so we have gone out, lit this tree. It will be powered by solar and solar panels. So we've partnered with Goal Zero. And we've organized a satellite media tour around this. So we will be going to, I think I have the markets here. We will be filming some segments. It will be broadcast in Denver, Grand Junction, Colorado Springs, Salt Lake City, Phoenix to really hit those markets. Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, New York, LA, Chicago. Talking about this, what we like to say is a quiet contrast to the Rockefeller tree in Moab and how we're doing it really the wilderness way. And this is how we winter in Moab for our winter solstice moment.
And that tree is like 25 feet tall. The picture kind of scales down, but it's very big and the lights are really.
Yeah.
So we had the ladders out yesterday.
Yeah,
We had our
it's
long
super
pole. We were
curious.
really getting to work.
Yeah.
And Ally went out there and did that as well.
Yes.
So it's in Sand Flats Recreation Area, right off the beginning of Slick Rock Trail. So it's actually perfect because you kind of come over that initial knoll and then you can see this beautiful tree.
And it's all on rock, so there's no area where somebody could trample anything else, which I think is important as well. And then the segment length is 3 to 4 minutes. Really, the tree is about 10 seconds of that. That's kind of the newsworthy thing. And then it goes on to greater visitation through affecting people who are considering spring, summer, fall road trips as well.
Yeah, so then going deep into the 4 seasons of Moab while you're planning, you should come here. So that's what we have for you
And
guys.
it's also the city, both the city and county have spent a lot of money on Christmas this year on decorations.
Yes.
It fits in perfectly with the whole thing that both the city and county are doing this year.
Yeah, that will be December 2nd, and it's being broadcast from a deck at the Hoodoo that kind of overlooks that pool and all the red rocks behind it. And then there will be B-roll of recreation. It'll be about 20 seconds of the Christmas tree, and then it's B-roll of people mountain biking and hiking and
Expanding
UTVing.
out.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went a little over.
No,
Yeah,
thank you. There's something you said, you said
socializing the word Moab. We take that for granted. A lot of our drive is from Moab.
Right.
This opportunity to get into people's homes, while they're watching the video, and maybe have never considered a trip to Moab before, and telling them about
What that would look like. So the tree's an excuse to tell the larger Moab story.
Absolutely, and that's why it was really important to us when we were selecting markets to not only hit the drive markets, because that's really important, but also the coastal markets, right? Some people in New York, LA, Chicago, they might have heard of Moab, or they might have seen the delicate arch on a license plate, but they don't actually realize that the spectacular, amazing place truly exists. And this is our moment to be able to unveil that to them.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll shift to Camp 4 and tourist and our branding project.
Awesome. So yes, we are Camp 4 and Tourist. We'll start with introductions of our team, and then we'll just discuss a little bit of our approach, kind of working with everybody here. So I will start. There's a lot of us on the Camp 4 and Tourist team. Not everybody's here. Some people were here. Tim was shooting with Heidi, the Mud Springs mountain bike trail on Friday. Liz has been out doing ethnography research the past couple of trips here. So this is just a snapshot of our team. We'll go around the room, just introduce ourselves, so I'll pass it along. I am Steve Barry. I'm an account director working at Camp 4 Tourist.
I'm Alex Fuller. I'm the founder and creative director of Tourist, and Camp 4 is our longtime favorite partner. So we're teaming up on this just to give you an extra mouthful to cram in, as you say it. But yeah, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thanks. I am a passionate tourist, lifelong tourist, and for me, that means showing up with an open mind and a humble attitude, and being an outsider who wants in. And I'm really excited to be here with all of you. And we're kind of the new kids on the block on this process. So we have a lot of here's what's happening now, but not as much of what we've already done yet here, but it's been really inspiring to hear from all of you. Thank you. I love the edge concept, of transformation. The tree's amazing. Moab characters, we've definitely, everyone we've talked to in here, we're getting a pretty good collection of characters, and that feels important to us to surface as well. So thanks. Yeah, really excited to be here.
I'm Jessica Kunzer Pearson. I'm the managing director at Camp 4. I actually started my career in the Utah tourism space. I was the communications director at Ski Utah for 5 years back in the early 2000s. My husband has been working at Ski Utah ever since for the last 24 years. And I was really, thinking of all the unfortunate assumptions that people were mentioning in their presentations about Moab just being a place that you drive through or a place that you stop for a day. I can't tell you how many, I don't know, I've probably been here 50 times or more over the years in various capacities, and I still don't think I've done all the things I want to do in Moab. So it's a really meaningful, exciting opportunity to be partnering with all of you. And I know our teams are just getting started, but we're looking forward to a lot of exciting developments in the coming weeks and months.
And if I might add, she just did the marathon, the trail marathon this weekend.
I guess I'm Heidi Gress. I'm lead producer. I'm also acting as a project manager all around through the branding to creative assets. I'm the person who's on all the fun production. So I get to go to all the fun adventurous things. I'm very excited. But I love to learn all the strategy. I'm helping project manage our strategy department as well. So I'm really excited to read all the things coming out of Madden, and I love seeing the stories coming out of Camp Stories. But I'm the person usually behind the scenes, just making things run. That's what I.
Yes. I guess I'm next and last. Yeah, okay. I'm Ben Peters. I'm the strategy lead on this project, working with Tourist at Camp 4. Gosh, what to say about Moab? I mean, this is my 5th time here. I feel like every time I'm here, there's a new dimension of it revealed to me. I feel like it's an absolutely magical place. Someone said the other day to me, the desert, it hits you like a monolith here, and then you start to notice the detail. And once you notice the detail, you're drawn in, and you're drawn in, and you're drawn in, and pretty soon it will reveal itself to you. And I think that's definitely been my experience here. And every time I'm here, it's something new and exciting. I'm heading up the research and strategy and insights phase of this, which we're in now. There's no cool pictures of that except me on a laptop. But we have been, you know, as everyone here knows, central to the success of this is really understanding the community that it's going to affect and how to bring their voice into this and give them real ownership of this project. We think that's the secret sauce. And in this phase, we're looking for that. We are trying to encounter as many visitors and residents as we possibly can. We're hosting a number of what we're calling porch light sessions, which are kind of intimate gatherings where we're talking about tourism and the effects of tourism. And I would say most importantly, I'm sure all of you have experienced this, it's very easy to get bogged down in the now of tourism here and all of the issues that are in front of us about how to navigate it. What we're thinking mostly about is what does the future of this look like here? What does good tourism look like here? What does a good tourist here look like? How do we capture that and make sure that that's expressed through what this campaign and this new brand needs to do? So my team and I are on the ground here, annoying everyone we possibly can. Actually, no one's annoyed, which is wild. Everywhere else I've done this kind of work, somebody is like, please don't talk to me. Everyone in Moab wants to talk. And the stories are just endless here, just absolutely endless. So we're also looking for characters. You know, it's really heartening to hear from both of your agencies. We're converging around some really central concepts that are getting proven out to us as we talk to people, and the more we learn, the more folks that show us around. And that's really exciting. I think this is all going to come together like very beautifully and poetically in the end, which is, you know, what Moab deserves. So that's us.
So with that, just to kind of speak to this slide, so we really wanted to come together as an integrated marketing team, knowing that Madden was brought on, Camp Stories is brought on, Camp Foreign Tourist is now joining in, so that we could come together and really just rally around kind of one core idea, making sure that we're all singing the same song as we move along in everything we do, knowing that what we're doing with brand identity and brand strategy is going to be pretty important to all of that. So that was a big reason why we asked to kind of have this agency workshop to hear from everybody, is so that we could kind of come together and make sure that we know that we're better together. It's not some kind of baton pass where we're getting a creative brief and then handing it off to you. We want to make sure we're informing you and you're informing us of everything we're doing. And then with that just comes talking to everybody. That's why we want to make sure we're talking to everybody within the county and the commission and the board and hearing from the public tonight at the open house. So this is our way of just kind of showing like we want this to be as integrated as possible.
What's your favorite song?
So we're gonna jump into our phases. I know Mick kind of touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but we have 3 phases broken out. And we'll get into the details of this. Ben, you want to jump in on phase 1, what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. Well, this type is so small. I wish we had really cool photos of this part. They're not possible. But yeah, we're midway through this phase. Like I was saying, we've got like a multi-pronged kind of approach to making sure we learn everything we can about Moab, how people feel about it. We're out to answer the question, what is Moab and who is Moab? So we've got a number of things happening. We have the porch light sessions, which I just mentioned. We are, as we speak, my colleague Liz is out in the streets doing more intercepts. She's at a couple of trailheads and places today to make sure we talk to a lot of visitors. We've also got one-on-one interviews with stakeholders ramping up right now. I think there's maybe a dozen or so people we're going to spend some one-on-one time with to really get their perspective.
I think including
Several of you. Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll talk soon. So yeah, the ethnography is continuing. We're also diving into competitive so that we have a clear understanding of where is the right lane for Moab out in the marketplace. And yeah, a couple other things. You know, this is all leading up to our first share out from us on December 9th. Which is going to be kind of like our initial findings, whatever insights that we've gleaned so far, probably testing some hypotheses about where a brand position and campaigns could go. Leading up to the end of the phase, which is a big delivery of everything we've learned and what we think is going to hopefully be like really inspiring direction for where to take the brand. And then we head into the much more fun part that we'll have.
And this is the, Ben, you talked about doing the 2-step, we're like waltzers apparently, because we've turned ours into a 3-step dance here too, but very much the same part, right? We're in the input gathering phase. So lots of taking in and fire hose sipping and all that guzzling right now. So coming out of that really after January, when we're coming to say to you, okay, here's the findings from everything. Now what do we do with all that? And that becomes hopefully a check gate for all of us, like, so that everybody on board is saying, yeah, okay, this feels right. This is what we're hearing. This feels right. Like, we can all work with this. Once we move past that, then we'll start moving into actually building the brand from all of those insights. So that's everything from the brand positioning into what is public facing messaging coming out of that. Like, who is Moab the brand, right? And how does Moab the brand talk and smell and show up? And so that will then turn into full visual identity. So yes, there will be a new logo, but more than that, we're looking at the full visual identity. So color, typography, but then moving into like, is there a graphic system, and how do we approach photography moving forward? So, what does a photo guide look like? What are we, knowing that we're going to probably be sourcing photos over the next, many years from lots of different sources? How do we make sure they all feel like they're of a piece? How do we make sure that, everything that's going out in, did you say 275 ad units you've already created, right? It's like, how are we making sure that that's all feeling like it's part of the same universe, right? So that all of our efforts are feeling like they're moving forward in a single energetic direction, rather than blowing all that energy out in lots of different directions. So at the end of that will be deliverable as a complete brand guide. That's a full toolkit with all of the assets for everybody to start using coming out of that. And from there, that's kind of another checkpoint that we want to not go backwards from that point. We want to make sure everybody's feeling really, really good from there. And then from there, we'll move into developing a campaign concept. Well, okay, this is the new brand. How are we actually going to bring that to life in a new campaign way? So we're sort of ending phase 2 with an approved concept. Okay, great. This is the concept that we're going to go make. Now let's go make it. And phase 3 is really about like bringing that to life. So we will do a smaller shoot in the middle of winter when there's snow on the ground, to make sure that we have some off-season winter assets to roll into it really for everybody's uses. But whatever kind of wherever that campaign lands, we'll make sure we have that. And then so the last part is really spring into summer, and that is the implementation of everything. So that will be going out and doing the primary shoot for this campaign, this new brand campaign. That's both video and still making sure we have all the visual assets we need to actually go out and tell all of these stories. And then once we have all that, that will be building out all of those assets. And we will work very closely with Madden to understand what is really the ideal media buy going to look like here. So that we're, making sure to shoot for that in advance, right? And not just like, oh, well, we have to make do with the assets that you have now. We have this really amazing opportunity. So this is what we'll all stay, quite closely connected the whole time here. So that will end up with the campaign guide, all the assets in it. So full campaign. While campaign is happening, we will also be working on all of the owned assets, all of the Discover Moab assets there. So that's a refresh of the website. Obviously, there's been a new website this year already, so functionality is pretty good, but it'll be, making sure that it's all, that the experience feels really consistent from the first touch you see an ad or read a story to the experience you actually have on the ground here too. So that will be rebranding all of the kiosks, all 10 kiosks around town, which are quite cool things that don't feel like they're being used to their full potential right now. Like, how do we take advantage of the actual physical space to continue this story and keep that loyalty loop like Ben was showing us going, right? So that experience, that narrative keeps being retold while people are on the ground here too. And then also working with the local, both community and business as well. So how does a local operator or restaurateur who maybe wants to start working with the brand, what does that look like for them? How do they engage with that brand? And how do regular community folks engage with it too? What does it mean for them, and how do they get involved? So that's really like the full complete picture of where we're going. And yeah, we hope to have lots of working sessions with you all too. And
I think the other there you had social too. And
social, yeah.
Guides.
Thank you for reminding me. Yep. Thanks. Keep me honest,
It's
Meg.
everything.
Yeah, it's everything. These will be rebranded as well, both of these. And be redesigned so that these are pretty cool tools, but let's make sure that they're like, even right now, these look like two different brands. So let's bring them all in line so they're all part of the same story. And then yes, social as well, social channels too. Do we have the same TikTok prohibition here?
We haven't looked into it too much. I know a lot of governments are thinking about this. One thing I've heard float is that agencies, if we hired an agency outside of the state, might be able to manage it, but we don't have a.
We'll get back on that one. Okay,
Yeah.
So we're in the middle, this is our kind of step one of this phase one, we're in the middle of it, so we were here in early October, on a trip to start these stakeholder interviews and these local intercepts. So we're in the middle of this kind of community immersion right now. Ben, do you want to talk to kind of what comes out of this as we kind of approach December 9th and into January 13th, share out next?
Yes, this is a graphic, not a photo. Again, we don't have any photos yet.
Next time.
Next time we'll have photos. I mean, this is sort of broadly how we think about structuring the brand, right? We start at the bottom, we're looking at audience archetypes. Looking for emotionally driven storytelling, as I'm sure you are too, at Camp Stories. We also think that like character driven storytelling is really powerful and unique, and it's definitely unique here. And so that's something we want to better understand as well. So we're really starting there with audience. Then we're looking at the emotional territory of what Moab represents for people. We think of it as like the space it occupies in their hearts. Lots of different dimensions to that we want to uncover. We've heard so many great stories. Our first question is always, what brought you to Moab and what keeps you in Moab? Which gives you like an incredible view to the meaning this place has for people. And we've been hearing a lot of incredible stories like that are just astonishing. We then will arrive at what we would call the core brand truth. That is an enduring belief about Moab. When we talk about kind of the brand itself, we need it to be enduring. It can't just flip every year to some other thing that Moab stands for, right? So we're looking for one that does have that endurance, that can get us through 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe it's forever. If it's good enough, it could work. So we're looking out for what that enduring belief is. And then of course, the guiding principles, capping it all off, you know, we have to act like the brand once the brand is out in the world. Everything we put out has to ladder back to it. We're signaling to people constantly in thousands of different contexts and places about what this place is about. So the guiding principles are really going to help us. It's a decision framework for how we act and behave with the world, and that'll have an impact on all three of our agencies as we figure out what's the right recipe for that. So that's sort of the framework. Well, yeah.
So from a timing standpoint, we're just in the middle of this phase one. You can see we're on our November 9th to 11th trip here. We come back, or we actually do a virtual presentation on the 9th to kind of share this, the findings of all this, and have our final presentation on January 13th. And then we get into the brand identity development and strategy. So overall, the phases you can kind of see, we've got it over about the next 9 months. And this is where I think within each of these stages, we're connecting with the Madden team and the Camp Stories team before we're even getting to these findings to make sure that we're sharing that out with you guys. We're hearing from you all what you're understanding, so that we are kind of aligned as we go forward at each of these phases. We want to make sure we kind of get like a stamp of approval from everybody, so we're moving along together. So my next slides are just discussion. We meant this to be kind of more of an agency workshop. So if you guys are all right with that, we can kind of just jump into talking. So the intent here is just to open up the dialogue here and have a little bit of a conversation around this. Our team, just from our pitch presentation, we've been thinking about this since July. We've made presentations.
I've been thinking about this since 2022.
Yeah. Or those of us that have been visiting for years, like find other reasons to think about it to come back. The more we need to now relay that to other people and get them to come back. So I don't know, Ben or Alex, do you guys want to touch on this? It's just, these are just more thought starters to get this conversation going and maybe ask questions of each other of what we think.
I'm gonna jump in for a second. For members of the public, this is just a workshop for our agency partners to like speak with each other. But if you guys have thoughts, obviously we want to hear them, and you can come to us at the open house. And you're also always free to email Mick and I and, you know, set up time to meet with us. We love doing that.
Thank you for letting us listen.
Yeah, but for right now, please.
Yeah.
I know, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ally. Can I add one thing too? I just wanted to say we have set up an email, moab@camp4collective.com. So for people who are listening, if you have a story you want to share with us or an opinion or thought that you want to make sure we're aware of, you can email that. If for some reason you feel like you can't tell Mick and Ally, you can tell us and
Safe space.
it's just a very safe,
That's right.
non-judgmental space and we'd love to hear your feedback.
And also by, again, public and those who aren't aware, but Alex and others in a previous, like, they actually worked on the Mighty Five campaign. So they were very involved in that whole campaign, which was so successful. So just by way of introduction of their previous work.
Yeah, I think that it would be good use of time. I'm really impressed by all of our partners' experience. And we've gotten to know you over the last few months, but I think it would be worth time to go around and say how long you've been working in tourism and some clients and stuff that you've worked on. The other thing I say, I hope it's clear to everybody who's listening, you know, Madden and Camp Stories hit the ground running and, you know, they're placing articles and they're doing ads. But this branding project is really an opportunity while we're doing that is to get everything to talk to each other and tell a more impactful story. So we can say we have our guidebooks on the table here and we say they don't look alike. Maybe, you know, our ads need to look like our guidebooks, need to look like our website. So that when we go to market, people know what we're asking of them or when the expectations that we're setting for a visit. And right now, we're talking in a million different languages and we want to talk in one language, and that's what they're gonna help us with. So if you wouldn't mind, just introducing yourself.
Yeah, sure.
And saying, a little bit about your career.
Okay. Steve Berry, account director at Camp for Tourists. So my background, I've been doing advertising over 25 years. I can't even think how far over 25, I just kind of say over 25, because it's been a long time. I've worked at quite a few large creative agencies from White & Kennedy to Goodby Silver City Partners, Crispin Porter McGusky. Worked in automotive, worked in technology, worked in outdoor industry, and definitely have worked in tourism. I worked with Breckenridge, town of Breckenridge Tourism. I've worked with Crystal Cruise Lines. My family actually owns a houseboat marina on Shasta Lake in Northern California. So my whole life I've been living tourism. I'm now kind of helping run that from afar. I live in Colorado. The one cool thing I will say about the Camp 4 collective team is that we are kind of spread out. There's a good group of us from all over the country. So it's pretty nice perspectives to the table as far as that's concerned. So that's all about me.
Okay, great. I'm Alex Fuller. I feel like I was born to be a tourist. Both my dads were airline pilots. I grew up in Park City in the 70s and 80s and definitely watched firsthand how tourism, dramatically changed that community. I now spent my time between Boulder, Utah, which makes Moab look like a thriving, centrally located metropolis, and Salt Lake, where my 16-year-old daughter goes to high school. No school in Boulder after elementary. I feel very personally impacted by tourism as both a local and a tourist. And I feel very strongly that all of us are tourists and locals in our own lives. And we often live in a bifurcated way with those rules. And how do we bring them together a little bit more so that we become the kind of tourists we want to welcome and that we become the kind of locals we want to meet when we are tourists in our own right. So my background is in writing and photography that turned into filmmaking and that turned into advertising. So I spent 10 years as the creative director at an agency called Struck, which is where Ben and I started working together. We've been working together for 15 years. And that's where I also met the Camp 4 team. So we started working together first on a project for CMH heli skiing. And then, yes, I led the team that created the Mighty Five and the Road to Mighty. So was the creative director for Youth Tourism for a very long time. I wrote the script for the Mighty Five as well. So been very involved with that for quite a long time. But yeah, a lot of other experiential tourism. So lots of ski resorts, Deer Valley, Snowbird, Sundance, couple other, some other states in there, some a big wilderness, which is a large safari operator in Africa. We've just been working on another new client called Dr. Jones that is a very cool kind of like road trip via fancy plane all down South America. But dealing with experiential travel is really like my jam. I also work as a fine artist sometimes. Sometimes I write poetry. She does it all. I like to create creative things having to do with people and place is my jam. Yeah.
Just skip here. I'm Campbell from Camp Stories. Everything we do is really centrally focused on authenticity of what we do. In my career, I've really focused on the places you go and like the things you bring with you in the outdoor world. And prior to PR, I was a backcountry ski guide in Canada for a number of years. Went to Knowles guiding school for a number of months in Alaska. I was a park ranger. I was a professional cyclist for a number of years in a former life, and so loved cycling still.
He's actually 72.
Yeah.
You just can't tell.
Yeah. And professionally, have led as AOR everything from like Tourism Australia at like the continental level, and Bermuda, which we still work on now, Chile, a lot of state tourism organizations, Nebraska, the UOT for a number of years, Tennessee tourism, Kentucky, New Hampshire, Wisconsin.
I know that's right.
And then in the outdoor world, represented REI for 10 years, Arc'teryx, sort of, again, like the things you bring with you, you adventure with and take with you. And kind of my focus anyway is just doing justice through storytelling to the people who we represent and who have invested their entire lives in many cases in what they do. Like think of Josh Schertz from Battle Moab, who like I always come back to that, and he's like, I mortgaged my house to get a new medallion to go down the river. You know, and so like I keep that in mind. Some people here, when you do PR for tourism, they're like, tourism, you're really just getting people to like go on vacation. I'm like, no, it's way more than that. You know, like people's entire lives are focused on this. They've given their lives, they've mortgaged their houses. And so, you know, I guess that's me in a nutshell.
Supporting those businesses.
I mean, Campbell's been coming to Moab for years and years. And years.
Yeah, I've been coming since
He
the
knows he's
80s.
the Nichols,
The Nichols.
with your dad.
Yeah, my dad was really good friends with the Nichols in the 80s. I grew up, my dad managed bike shops in Denver in the 80s. I came here, I think, first in 86. And we could literally I remember vividly being able to throw a tent like wherever you wanted and camp wherever you wanted. And that's why I talked a little bit about timelessness, is because we interview people all the time and they're like, this place has changed so much. And I'm like, you know, it really hasn't. Like it still is like physically the place is exactly the same. And it's just a really rare
With
thing.
some more businesses and some great food and some more people and some places to stay.
Yeah, like it's like, and from a timelessness standpoint, I'm like obsessed with nostalgia and timelessness, and like this place just like oozes with those things. And so it's just, yeah, it's been like a full, I initially came as a kid with my dad, and then like a broke college kid, and now come back with my family. And so like I've kind of seen it in a lot of different iterations.
Hi, everyone. Courtney Howsam, Camp Stories. So I started my career, gosh, I guess like 2 decades ago, and have worked on some very large brands in that time, really focused on brand strategy and connected activations, right? Thinking about how earned and paid and owned all intersect, and really thinking about some of those activations that brands put on and how do we create and generate awareness and interest in those brands. So I worked on many brands, spent a number of years leading the Starbucks business, as well as a number of years leading the Kellogg's business, worked on the North Face, Oakley, Callaway Golf, Aspen Snowmass. Early on in my career, I started really rooted in a lot of the destination space. I lived and worked in the Aspen Snowmass area on the Snowmass tourism business for a number of years. Also worked on a number of Vail hotels, Montage hotels and resorts, and have kind of come full circle now back to the tourism world later on in my career, and really focusing on that earned element of awareness driving and connecting with people in the places that they are in the most authentic and real way we possibly can. But also coming up with really creative and interesting ways to connect with people through the media without putting pay against it.
I always say that we don't buy ads, we buy cocktails.
Yes. Connect with the writers and find our way in, right, to tell the best stories possible organically.
As we're kind of halfway through the introductions, I think it's a really good use of time. Campbell likes timelessness and I like experience. And I think that hearing all of your experience and years of doing this is how we can put everything we do into action. We're a small remote place and we don't have marketing professionals walking around. which is why we rely on all of you and your depth of knowledge and experience to do really good work and have good outcomes.
I'm Jessica Kinzer Pearson again, Camp 4 Collective.
Marathon.
Marathon. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I just have to say,
Bravo.
since we're gonna switch, let's talk about marathons. Everyone else has got amazing resumes. They can talk about that. I have run many marathons, many half marathons. This was my 15th trail race in the last 2 years. It was the hardest race I have ever run. It was so hard. So, if you're looking to push to your edge, I highly recommend it. I ran the Moab Trail half marathon last year in 40 degrees and rain. And this was just so much harder with perfect weather. I can't even tell you. So anyway, but yeah, I'm from the Twin Cities originally, and my parents were crazy about the dream of the American West, which I think that dream has not left most of the country. I mean, many of us live here in the Mountain Time Zone or maybe the Pacific Time Zone, the people that I've met today. And for my husband and I, who are both from Western New York and the Midwest, the idea of coming out to see this open landscape and blue sky is still offers so much freedom to people, not only in the United States, but around the world. And you have such the opportunity to give them something that they can't even believe is real here in Moab that falls into that vein. So saying that, I came from the cloudy skies of St. Paul. My parents moved us to Utah in 1998. I remember coming here on my first camping trip as a 16-year-old, and my mind was blown. My whole life has been really rooted in the Utah tourism community. Like I said, I worked for Ski Utah. My parents ended up retiring from their full-time jobs and got jobs at Snowbird in Deer Valley. My husband has worked for Ski Utah for 24 years. I moved on with my career into the agency world and have worked with many amazing brands, from the North Face to Bentley to a million different shoe companies. And joined Camp 4 because although Camp 4 has been around for a while, since 2011, and is probably still best known for a lot of our out of this world expedition storytelling, sending people, out to the upper limits of the Himalayas on first ascents and celebrating those accomplishments. As we've grown and developed as a company, what we are really dedicated to doing is telling these stories about the intersection of people and place. And at the end of the day, that's what tourism really is. And as a local, and I'm very protective of my local environment, especially those ski resorts, watch out, Ski Utah. But, you don't want to share in one way, but you do want to share. You want to do it in a way where you feel like what you claim as your own is being respected. And I think all of us at the Camp 4 tourist team, really want to join in with the Moab community in that aim. We want to help you share what you have, but make sure that people respect how truly special it is for everyone who lives here and calls it home.
That's beautiful. I'm sorry, but that was great, thank you.
My name is Heidi. I am with the Camp 4. My background is in production, both in commercials, film, and also events. I specialize a lot in international production, specifically one where cultural nuances are very important. I've shot in every continent except for Antarctica, which hopefully maybe someday. But I also come from a fashion beauty background, strangely. Worked like Estee Lauder, Aveda. I produced fashion shows for both Paris and Los Angeles. So I have a very different type of background. I did go to school with Alex though in Park City. We lost each other for 20 something years, and now we have found each other again. So I also have been affected by tourism, and everybody who goes, oh, I remember when, so. But I started working with Camp 4 crew about 4 years ago. And I mean, there's fashion and outdoors too. And everybody teases me that I'm the fashion person. I'm really not that fashionable, but I do love telling stories.
Look at those nails.
I was pretty bright for Halloween. But I still do, I lived in LA for a long time, worked on the BMW film series, I worked Target, mostly Canadian. I worked with some really great directors I've been honored to work with, like Zack Snyder, all those guys, so, I've had really great experiences. I love Camp 4. I love their connection to place, and they really make the environment part of everything that they do. And I think for this particular project, it's very, very important to have that and to keep that in mind every step of the way. They're also rooted in authenticity. And I mean, many of you guys know fashion, they talk about authenticity all the time, and they don't really care that much. They just say they do. But they're always trying to find this authentic voice. And one thing that I've always loved producing internationally is connecting with the cultures in an authentic way wherever you are. I've done a lot of documentaries connecting with artisans who are creating like fabrics and textiles and development and how it affects local communities. So I think I'm really excited to see where this happens and how everything changes. I'm actually, unfortunately gonna pop down. I wanna listen to everybody else's experience, but I'm helping with the community event tonight. So I'm gonna hop over to the hotel. But I'm excited. If anybody's here, it will be social. It will be fun. So any public people, it's not gonna be so formal. But yeah, so that is my experience, and I talk a lot, so if you get bored, want to hear random stories, I'm here for you. But thanks so much.
See you later.
Bye. I'm Heather Molina from Madden. My experience for the past 22 years has encompassed performance marketing, everything from SEO back in 2003, all the way to today, to all the amazing stuff that we're dealing with Google and how it's changing so much even in the past 2 months. Prior to that, I spent 2 years working at Martha Stewart in New York City, where I cried every day at work. During a very interesting time in her life. I might add. But my experience, my tourism experience really kicked into gear at Madden when I joined 4 years ago. Prior to that, I worked at Omnicom and some of the bigger agencies in the Northeast. So some of the brands you mentioned, I worked on too, maybe overlapping in different capacities and stuff, because it's such a small world. And really where I am passionate about is measurement and using insights and helping it power different areas. So what we see with our audience research and tools that we have access to that can help inform the things that you guys are doing with those personas, or measuring anything from like an experiential experience, which, Ben and I were talking about earlier today. How do you measure an experiential experience and stuff? All of that stuff is sort of where I like to sit and play around and stuff. I'm not a creative person. I'm definitely a person who looks at the data and likes to play around in that, which can be creative too. But tourism has been in my career, because I've been very e-commerce and lead gen focused prior to my time at Madden. Being at Madden has been very freeing for my spirit, because we get to play around a lot more with the data and the insights and stuff with this care. So it's been a really fun 4 years. Don't fire me.
What did you do with Martha Stewart?
I was a project manager for her wedding and gift registry service. Yeah. Wow.
Pre or post?
High stakes.
What?
Prison.
Pre-prison, during crime and investigation.
Lower down on your resume.
Very much so.
That's why people should elope.
Yes, to Moab.
Yes, or anywhere.
We're gonna
Park
tell that
City.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my background has really been a mix. It has not all been marketing and advertising. It's been, 2 decades of focusing on human behavior and technology. Working a lot with big data and analytics, all the way back, looking at defense and, movements of people and influencing people through other means there. All the way to marketing here, and I've been on the marketing and tourism side and have gotten the tourism bug for sure over the last 8 years. My job is really to make sure that every time we fail, we learn something, and that we fail a lot frequently, so we can learn a lot there. And I like to think about that, because when we have 300 people, and we have a number, we have 22 campaigns running here. When we think about the number of campaigns we run at scale, we need to make sure that we're learning lessons across all of those and applying those lessons to make sure that we're creating the most optimized performance media across there for the pay component that's there. So, you know, things that are like the size of the logo, you know, being smaller right now is outperforming, a larger logo and text that's out there. People want to see more native on Meta. You know, those are the sort of insights that we want to be able to see and share across that. So we can translate from one thing to another that we're moving across there. And then that last part of that is just looking ahead. AI is gonna be transformative, and as we think about how marketing affects, communities and place, my view is just that everything is going to become more of the same as we think about Amazon and Google and those big boxes. The only thing that's going to be different is place. And that's going to matter for how we think about how a place has its identity, how you communicate that identity, and how that identity is represented across multiple platforms, data sources. So that's where I think the future is.
And how many destinations does Madden work on roughly? And how many employees do you have?
We have 300 employees, a little over 300, I guess now. And then we have
roughly,
and we're probably over 100 destinations that we have meaningful projects with right now. That are there. We work with 200 a year. Is like always our number that we use around, but a lot of those are just like we have a state visitor guide that includes 20 there. So it looks good on a slide, but about 80 to 100 like good media partners.
What failures have we had in Moab that you have learned from, or that we kind of learned from, that were surprising or even just interesting?
I think too early right now, because
Yeah,
we only
I
have
see.
like 3 months of like.
We'll
data
keep working
that
on
we're looking
failures.
at it. Well, like,
Fail hard.
it's so interesting because like, there's all these times that Kristen has this amazing creative brief and does all this amazing work. We think he's gonna like outperform. And then all of a sudden there's just like, other thing that the algorithm picks up or that humans interact with that you're like, so they went with that one, huh? It's.
They always pick my projects. What are you talking about?
I mean, you're always right. I mean, it's fictitious,
Yeah, come on.
That's what I was asking earlier, is what particular sides or what has gotten a bunch of traction that surprised us, but you can answer that later. It's like, I'm just trying to figure out what's landing that isn't, but we'll talk it tonight.
Well, I think
also-
I think a couple of highlights we saw already is that the best performing media across everything other than older demographics seem to be like people involved in it. And that was all, from the photo shoots that we inherited there. Outdoor and nature, look to outperform without people in it, just in terms of audiences. As a quick scrub, that's like, not in depth, but as we're looking at, this today, that's kind of what some of the insights that we're seeing in that space. And that's consistent with where we're seeing audiences at, like the older audiences want to see the vastness and their place and like the immenseness, and the younger audiences want to be like, am I invited? And am I represented? And that's just a lot of, and they don't want a lot of graphics, on the images right now. Which is different. A year ago, we saw a lot more graphics that people wanted to see it. They wanted to see fun fonts. And so it changes pretty quick.
And it's good that we have a team that can adapt to that and be responsive. So we have a large team and they're really looking at this stuff. Not only are you doing this professionally for other destinations so we can be competitive, but as we put stuff out, we can adapt, and they've already started to do that.
Yeah.
And the size of their team and the extent of their support, these are the leads, but they have 3 people behind each of them at least, and they're all working to make everything we do better.
Okay, not dissimilar to some of the stories that have been told so far. I have always loved travel. My family lives in a rural part of Missouri, Holt Summit. If anybody has ever heard of it, I would be shocked. We moved to Arizona as a kid, but we didn't travel as a family very much, honestly. My mom is a lawyer, and my stepdad is a chief of police, so they're very rigid. And I, as a small creative child, did not understand a lot, honestly. And I did get really interested in data and human behavior specifically, because my mom was always like criminally profiling people and we were doing all these things, but I didn't want to bring home cases like that in the evening. And funnily enough, my mom has shared with me that I don't remember, a drawing that I had made of myself in fourth grade where I did a self-portrait as a travel photographer. And so it's really interesting to see kind of how my life has brought me into this path. So I went to University of Arizona as well. It's a big film photography program. And so we studied a lot of Ansel Adams. And so I fell in love with landscape through that. I love to paint, much like Alex. I mean, I feel like we're, as creatives, we do everything. And so I have a lot of interest there. Before I was at Madden, I actually worked at a university and marketed to prospective students. So that was a through thread for me of like trying to bring people into not just the school, but in kind of like the greater area that the school was in. So that was kind of my first, like trying to do placemaking and bring people into places. And then after that, I worked actually at a design and fabrication shop that specialized in experiential. So we worked a lot with data and with user journeys and understanding kind of patterns and how even small children will go into an exhibit in a museum and engage with it and interact with it. So there's a lot of cool underlying notions there as well, just getting people to really like engage with things digitally or in person and all those things. And then I've been at Madden for about 7 years. So that was when I really, I think, started to find my stride in tourism specifically, and had the great opportunity to work with a lot of our destinations and our brands. So our team, I've said this to a few of you over lunch, our team is kind of Intermountain West. We've got Leslie who likes to color outside the lines as we described. So we have some outliers, but really getting to know kind of these Western destinations has been honestly a great privilege. And I'm really excited to get to know Moab more. My husband and I do come up here, not frequently as much as we probably would like. But yeah, we love staying at the field station. So yeah, it's been cool to kind of be able to work with you guys.
And who do you guys work with? Who's Team Go working in?
Okay, so we got Utah, we got you guys in Utah.
Idaho.
Yes, Idaho
The
is
state of Cal,
state of Idaho.
the Central Oregon.
Yep.
We work with different accounts in Wyoming and Colorado and Montana, so Bozeman, Grand County, visit Cheyenne, visit Casper. So and then quite a few other accounts in Idaho, so like Southern Idaho.
Yeah, Southern Idaho, some of the regional DMOs there as well as the state, and then honestly, some of the small local ones like McCall, Twin Falls, Pocatello.
So we just have a few more minutes. We're already over. We can say these things at our meet and greet. Do you guys want to just?
Sorry, Leslie, you don't get to speak.
Kind of quickly. You know, an important part of us all meeting is just where we overlap. So we'll continue to have meetings in the next few days about specific deliverables and timing and stuff like that.
Well, I'm Caitlin. I've been in marketing and advertising for nearly 20 years. I've been with Madden for 1.5 years. I came with a boutique agency prior for 5 years and then came from Gannett USA Today. So I've been in kind of the whole landscape of all things, but really travel and tourism is a passion. Who doesn't love to travel? So that's me in a nutshell.
And I come from kind of a different space. So I'm one of those from Madden who comes from the destination marketing arm. So I worked with the Wyoming Office of Tourism and managed that agency relationship, moved for a little bit and worked with the digital merchants at Cabela's for a while before I came back into the tourism world. Had worked with Madden while I was at the Office of Tourism, knew them as a place that had a lot of integrity. So that's kind of where I started. But where everyone is telling these beautiful stories, which are amazing. I definitely look at it from like building economies. So I'm all about, how are we driving dollars? How are we creating jobs? I think working at the state, that's a lot of the stories that I was telling is like, what is that economic impact? So that's the passion part for me, is making sure that we're supporting small businesses, that we're creating jobs, that we're, having more opportunities to get the right companies wherever they need to be. So I like to look at it a little bit more like that, but love the experience as well.
My last.
Bring us home, Ben.
I'm just going on my LinkedIn to remind myself what the hell I'm doing. I went to film school and then I learned that I just really like movies and I didn't want to make them, and so I'm probably going to talk about movies. Totally worth the money. I got involved in digital advertising kind of at the birth of the commercial internet, maybe 1997. By faking my way into an agency because I knew about HTML and they were like, cool, you should work here. And here's your first account, the Directors Guild of America's new website. Back in the days of like $5 million website projects, Heather and I were talking about this earlier. Wow, what a time to be alive. I stayed in digital strategy for 20 some years. I think mostly Fortune 100 brands, deep into tech and deep into entertainment. I don't know. Then I had an epiphany a few years ago and I thought like, this is like not close enough to humanity for me anymore. And kind of moved into experiential marketing, which is all about bringing people together in person, which is a power unlike any other. No offense that digital can never recreate. I think it's a fascinating place to be. And I, joined Struck and got to work with Alex on a bunch of tourism things, including Road to Mighty, we've worked together on Field Station, Auto Camp, Scottsdale, Arizona. Yeah, a bunch of things. And Alex has been pulling me in like a tractor beam to tourism. I think it's most fascinating to me because it's such a microcosm of society. Understanding what place means to people and how that affects the way they see the world and how that affects how they treat each other. And so to me, it's probably like the inner circle of that quest for, humanity through advertising. And so that's why I'm here and that's what I have to bring to this.
Awesome. Well, we have a lot of experience to rely on in 2026. We're looking forward to working with everyone. We'll be at Josie Wyatt's tonight in just 50 minutes. So if anyone said piqued anyone's interest, that'll be our chance to connect and talk. And I think that's all I have. Thanks for a productive meeting. Thanks for the state for coming.
Yes, thank you guys.
We can all speak together.
Thank you too for organizing.
Thanks.
Immense amount of work.
It's exciting. It's very